today we're going to talk about, do bearded dragons need a water bowl? This is one of them things you'll see online. People will argue that they don't need a water bowl because they're from the desert and they'll get all the hydration from their food, which is somewhat true. Bearded dragons are adapted to an arid environment and are hardy in that aspect, but it doesn't mean they don't come across water whatsoever in the wild. Bearded dragons do of course absorb a lot of moisture content from their diets, especially their leafy greens and their bugs. They do go through really hard times in the wild. In fact, they'll go through periods where they don't access much freestanding water or rain at all, and that's where that aspect of their biology and getting a lot from their diet really becomes handy. Keepers generally oversimplify the wild. They think it's bone dry, it's arid environment, that's it. And it is generally quite low humidity in the wild. But the thing is, it goes through daily cycles of humidity, so it might be down to 20% humidity at the peak of midday, where the sun's blazing and everything's hot and everything's evaporated. And then, when cloud cover rolls in near the end of the day, it might rise to 50%, and at night it might be up to 65-70%, and under a piece of grass or in a burrow it might be plus 80%. So the environment is much more dynamic than people realise. Then, the wilds of Australia also experience really rapid rainfall. In the habitat of bearded dragons, they experience flash flooding. Many people put bearded dragons in baths and experience their bearded dragon puffing up and floating, and they do that to become buoyant, because in the wild, if they do have a flash flood, they need to not drown. So that behaviour has evolved in them because they experience water in the wild. So yes, there is water to drink from in the wild. If you even look at herping videos of people out in Australia looking for bearded dragons, there's even videos of people wading through literal knee-high water to get to an other side of a road. Water is abundant at times in the wilds for bearded dragons, and they will drink from freestanding puddles, as well as catching the rain upon them and directing it on their head towards their mouth to drink. So yes, they will drink water in the wild, but does that mean they need it in captivity? The other reason that people say that bearded dragons might not need a water bowl is because they argue it raises humidity too much in the enclosure. Many people are terrified of any level of humidity whatsoever, when it simply isn't an issue. Not only is humidity actually fine for a bearded dragon, but people breed them outside in Florida year round when they're being rained upon and the ground is sodden, and they absolutely do fine. So why is it that they can experience high humidity and be fine, yet other people in vivariums say that it causes them to get RIs? A wet and damp environment that's also very warm is a breeding ground for bacteria, and when you don't have sufficient ventilation and airflow to pull that stagnant air through, you can get conditions that are dirty in a vivarium. But is that from there being humidity in the first place, or simply because the conditions in the vivarium aren't correct enough to allow that stagnant air to be pulled out and fresh air to be pulled in? Many of us do not have problems, and we actually even spray our enclosures. Once a week I spray my bearded dragon's tank down to simulate a little bit of rainfall for my dragon. Water will collect on rocks and bits of logs in the back walls, and she'll sit there and drink the droplets, and that's allowing her to enact a natural behaviour within herself. There is a massive difference between wetness and humidity. For example, this room right now is sitting at around 70% humidity, but everything around me is bone dry. So we know that giving them a water bowl has no negative impact on the bearded dragon, and you might find that you never see your bearded dragon drink, but should you not just provide it anyway? As an example, I never see my bearded dragon drink. It's very, very rare, but when she was in brumation and she was asleep for a solid 3 months, she woke up, walked straight over to a water bowl, plunged her face into the water, and drank for a solid 2 minutes. She was just sucking up, just guzzling water. Situations like that just show that why it is important to give them a water bowl, because you don't know when they need it, but they know when they need it. Allow them to self-regulate. Animals in captivity having access to freestanding water is a bare basics right. Even things like uromastics, again, I give them water bowls, I spray them, they're fine. So for bearded dragons, it's absolutely fine to give them a water bowl. If you want to learn more about bearded dragon care, then go watch this video right here.